You are in Washington much of the time, which is glittering. It's getting richer all the time. The home values are going up all the time in every county around it. But you also go to Western Maine. Was that something that clued you in, that maybe?
Oh, yeah. It had a huge effect on my life, on my politics, on the way I see the country. Yeah, I've gone to the same little town my whole life. One of the poorer counties, one of the poorest counties on the East Coast. Beautiful place. And I've watched it dissolve. I mean, the culture there, there's wonderful people. I spend 3 months a year there every year. And you watch the same very familiar pathologies that we wrote a lot about in the 80s and 90s in the inner city, right in the middle of this overwhelmingly conservative, 100% white, rural community. And you start to ask yourself, like, well, why is this happening? Is it because they just, is welfare doing this? Well, I'm not sure that our assistance programs make it better. I think they undermine the family in a lot of ways. But they're not the problem. I mean, they didn't cause this. Actually, they're exacerbating it. They didn't cause it. And what caused it was the collapse of male jobs. And we should have learned this. And it actually has made me reassess a little bit. Not my feelings about watching the family collapse in inner city America. I still feel that's a disaster. It demonstrably has been a disaster. There's really sort of no other way to look at it. But the causes are a little different from what I thought. Like, if men don't have full-time work, families fall apart. If men make less than women, women don't want to marry them. This is not some Handmaid's Tale like talking point that we in the alt-right believe. This is the product of like a century of consistent social science. And by the way, I wish it weren't true. I wish women were very excited to marry overweight, indolent men who played video. I'm serious.
Tucker, what do you?
No. I'm serious. I wish it were enough to sort of be charming at dinner. But it's not, actually. And that's not a choice that men make. It's an instinct that women have. And it's true over time across population, race, income. So, clearly this is a feature of human nature. So if you're mad about it, kind of not my problem. At some point you have to address people as they are, which is my basic problem with a lot of what happens in Washington. It does not address human nature, which is immutable. It's the one thing that doesn't change. And so if you have a society where, on average, women make more than men, you will see a very predictable series of events. Women will stop getting married. They will not stop having children, by the way. That's a biological imperative. They will continue to do that, but those children will not have a father in the home over large populations. And that's exactly, and then everything else that happens, which as conservatives we're very familiar with, because we spend a lot of time moralizing about it. I certainly have. A lot of time. And we spend almost no time asking, how can we make this better? So if you have a society where the only full-time employers, and this is true in Western Maine, and it's true in much of rural America, are the hospitals and the schools, you have to ask yourself, can you have a functioning society, the basis of which is always the nuclear?
How? Hello everyone, hope you guys are having amazing. The XRP is around 51 cents now. There's so much happening, guys. I'm actually mind blown. Bitcoin feels like it wants to explode to worst upside, but I hope it comes back down, because I need to get back into another trade, guys. I put my stop loss a little bit too high. Why? Because it seems like we got confirmed, guys. We were the first people to say it, and if this is correct, we literally called XRP's bottom, but I hope it dumps back to 49 cents so I could get back in it along. Now, big news coming from Ripple and XRP in the next couple of days. This person says, but he's not just a random person, guys, right? From Sean McBride. Now, he's an ex-Google, ex-Amazon, ex-Ripple employee. Wait a moment, that's strange, right? So, how does that work though? Because, yeah, all you non-Ripple shareholders can, stop talking, because, yes, big news is coming, already has come, and XRP is going to explode, so piss off if you don't have anything positive to say. This is insane, guys, because who is this person once again? If you go down here, guys, look at this. Experience, Director Global Talent Acquisition, Ripple full-time, August 2021 to July 2023, 2 years. Right. Google full-time, and then as well as Amazon right there, guys. This person says, in the next couple of days, XRP is going to explode to the upside, guys. I literally called the bottom. How do we do it? I don't know, but I hope it goes back down because I'm going to go back in the long, guys. But to the SEC that's watching, no, this isn't insider trading because the charts, we were in a long beforehand, right? When XRP was at 49 cents, this just came out today. So it's definitely not insider trading. The chart says it all, guys, that if XRP holds at least 49 cents or pumps this month, guys, the higher time frames will be triggered for new all-time highs basically in the next couple of months. I'm not even joking. It seems
your girl back for another video. This video is going to be about where have all the good men gone. This is a topic I talk about quite a bit. Yesterday I did my men going their own way video. Well, this one's going to be about where have all the good men gone. I hear this all the time. I saw articles about it. It's all over TV. It's a common saying amongst women, Western women today. I got to keep saying Western women. There's too many women that keep bringing up women from other countries. When I'm talking about women, y'all, I'm talking about Western women. I am a Western woman. I'm talking about other Western women here in the States. So, this is a common saying amongst women in the West. And a lot of women, you know, just about almost all the females that I know and acquaintances that I've had, one thing I've heard them say at some point is, I can't find a good man. There's no more good men. Where have they gone? You know, what happened to them? Men are pigs, they're dogs, they cheat. You know, you can't trust them. Very, very common. Well, I just want to try to get y'all to see this from a different angle here. And maybe, you know, it'll wake some of y'all ladies up out there. So, ladies, when you're dating a man or you're seeing a man or whatever you want to call it, and he cheats on you and you're pissed off at him, you know, you want to write off all men, you don't want nothing to do with men anymore. I just want you to think about this. If other women were not so willing to open their legs to a stranger, or if other women were not whores, I'm just gonna say it, this kind of stuff wouldn't happen that much.
Hey guys, it's your girl Melanie. I came across a woman that I wish was my BFF. Best friend. Guys are like, well, BFF. This is the type of girl I want to hang out with. So she is Nola Girl. Let me see. Her name is Nola Girl 504. And the title of her video is, Where Have All the Good Men Gone? They're Staying Clear of Worthless Women. I just love her accent. I love how straightforward she is. I love how she is just keeping it 100 in gangster and just going straight. And she's holding women accountable. And I went through her channel and it looks like she hasn't posted in a couple years. This video is actually over 6 years old. So she was talking about this long before I even, entered this space or anything like that. So definitely want to give props to women like this who were speaking up before there was even like influx of content and media that talks about these things. But your girl said, you're mad that he cheated, but you don't blame the fact that women are whores today and open their legs for any man. But now men are all dogs and worthless. But what about these women that are ladies of the night, that are willing to do anything and sleep with your man? So you don't have a problem with women, but you have a problem with men? It makes no logical sense. But again, we know with Western women, as she
I promise this won't make sense. Years ago, I made a video about how if you don't like seeing lewd things online, simply close your eyes and walk away. But what happens when you do close your eyes and walk away, but no matter where you walk away to, you bump right back into it? Whether it's on Twitter, TikTok, or even Twitch. Dasani water. I'm gonna get canceled for this. All these years, and this is what's gonna get me canceled. I don't want to hear it from any water snobs, okay? Where are my fellow Dasani heads at? But anyway, do you like the red hair? A lot of the Twitch thoughts that I'm going to be talking about have red hair. I felt like I was missing out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking about the Twitch thought epidemic and its consequences, as well as OnlyFans culture and the de-civilization of I promise this won't make sense. Maybe. Like all my videos are just kind of messy brain vomit. I mean, I guess that's one way you could be sure I'm not plagiarizing. When I start to sound smart and make sense, that's a red flag. I figured out how to use ChatGPT. So for those of you who are unaware, Twitch is a video game streaming website, or at least it used to be, where people often stream themselves playing video games and interact with their viewers. But recently, in the past few years, it has been invaded by women. But not only women, naked women. Now you might be asking, Shu, what is wrong with that? And normally, you'd be correct. But Twitch is a website for kids, advertised for users 12 and up, and predominantly used by young boys. And the question on everyone's mind is, are these evil Jezebels preying on today's youth? Or are they simply the product of capitalism? Clever, sneaky women taking advantage of people living under a brutal system in order to selfishly make money. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Before we get into this, let's quickly get into today's sponsor. When you're browsing the internet, you may think all your personal information is safe on there. Well, you're wrong. Unfortunately, it's become all too easy for hackers and data brokers to find all our personal information, including our full legal name, phone number, and even our address. It's gotten so bad that every 14 seconds, someone becomes the victim of identity theft. During this video, and as always, thank you, the viewer, for not skipping the ad. Now let's get back to the video. So about 2 weeks ago, this tweet showed up on my Twitter timeline. What's going on with Twitch? Which showed a streamer wearing no shirt, swinging her fun bags around slightly off camera every time she got a donation. So for strictly research purposes, I went to Twitch to see if this was real, and surely enough it was. And it wasn't just one streamer, it was many. It was multiple. It was the entire home page. And then when you went to click on one of the streams, it just took you there. No verification needed, no login required, nothing. And the whole internet pretty much agreed this was insane. Not everyone, we will get to that, but most people agreed this was crossing a line. Because of all the outrage, Twitch changed the rules. Not to fix the website, they changed the rules in order to save the Twitch thoughts. Twitch actually doubled down and made it so twerking, pole dancing, and artistic nudity was allowed. Artistic nudity. Right. So obviously, Twitch is run by simps. We knew this. Anyway. Artistic nudity. So like, can you glue googly eyes onto your Can you do like a little meat spin on camera with googly eyed, and that would be considered cool and fine? Because it's art, right, Twitch? Why am I still doing this? So then VTubers, animated YouTubers, took advantage of this new artistic nudity rule and started streaming their avatars butt-ass naked.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
Only for them to get banned while the Twitch thoughts remained. Clearly, 2D girl discrimination. A few days later, Twitch finally banned the Twitch thoughts for a day.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, time's up.
This has been going on for a very long time, from hot tub streams to ASMR ear licking. Twitch has just becoming a cesspool for this stuff, especially in the past 3 years, following a pattern I have been seeing online. A huge increase of OnlyFans models and everywhere. And it isn't just my observation, it's a fact. There are many studies that came out that show pornography and pornography addiction increased significantly during the pandemic, especially for young people, and hasn't decreased since. And the amount of people making content on OnlyFans has skyrocketed. Being locked in our houses absolutely did something to our brains. You used to have to go out of your way to see this stuff, and now it's everywhere. Now, compare this to how I talked about this issue a few years ago, where I would make fun of people for complaining about. This is like walking into a strip club and being like, get your horny asses out of here. The difference is now, everywhere is the strip club. It's to the point where even meme accounts on Twitter are being paid to discreetly advertise OnlyFans pages. And you can't even block the accounts that show up as ads on Twitter. Great website, Elon. 13 plus, by the way. And anyone who points this out is called a prude or a conservative. If you have an issue with naked women making softcore on a website full of children, you're the problem. How does the overall well-being of society affect you, bigot? Most of the internet seem to agree that this Twitch thing was wrong, but there were a lot of people mad at me and others for pointing out the obvious. So we're gonna respond to some of those critiques from people who disagree on this subject, and then we're gonna talk a little more deeply about all of this, because I feel like it's a little deeper than
only my day because I was so emotionally touched. Believe me, I love it being touched in the cinema, but it happens very, very less, you know, because if you have in this all sci-fi effect movies, it has no heart and no soul, and this movie has a heart and a soul thanks to you and your work.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear you say that because I'm just as fed up as you are. I love the movies. I go for the story. I'm sure you heard John say this, but you leave the plot at the theater. What you leave with are those themes, those very relatable themes, those emotions. That's what we're trying to achieve. It's not just the big explosions and this and that, it's the relationships. That is what's so important. And if you have that intact, then I think the other more explosive qualities can really shine.
And I told to John, when you watching this movie, and if you have your heart on the right place, you will fall automatically in love with the leader. There's no other way. So when you see it for the first time, what was your imagination?
I fell in love with the leader. I the same way you forget that she's CGI and the big eyes and all this stuff, that's the same thing I encountered when I watched Alita. I was sucked into the movie. I was sucked into the world. I cried when her heart breaks. I cry because she's someone with such a big heart, someone with so much soul, so much emotion. So you know what the agony she's going through in this moment, in several moments, and you can't help but have it break your own heart. I mean, you are with her the entire time, and I am her, and I experience that. So I'm glad to hear that you experience that as well. When you're so close to something, you can sort of be too close, and you can't really know how other people will experience it. But I'm glad to hear that this is the way you experienced it.
It worked very, very well, very well. And I see your martial arts videos on the internet, and it looks so great.
Thank you.
So how hard was it getting trained like that? This is wahoo!
Some days were better than others. Some days you go in and you're very excited and energized, and everything's very positive, and you're doing very well, and maybe you're not kicking as high as you would like, but you accept your limitations in that day, and you can see the goal ahead. And then other days you're simply fed up with yourself and those same limitations. You just want to be good already. That was very hard for me to push through. I'm a perfectionist, and I love my job. So I didn't want to just look good. I wanted to be good. I wanted to be great. I wanted to be able to do more stunts than they were allowing me to do previously. I wanted to do as much as possible to bring this character to life. And what it did was yes, I became stronger physically, but I also became stronger spiritually. And this, it woke my warrior spirit. It taught me how to calm the tiger within.
And I think you have a big tiger within because we see it on screen. Did maybe some unusual happen? Maybe you got some cuts and bruises doing the martial arts training or the fighting scenes on set? Or?
I did. You hurt yourself a lot when you're doing martial arts. I fell on my ribs a few times. Sometimes you do a whip kick and your other leg just gives out and you fall on your rib. I've broken my ribs several times in other ways. I've had the wind knocked out of me. I broke a staff on my assistant trainer's face. I've taken a few punches and kicks. It's gruesome. It can be quite gruesome, but
The message behind feminism, at least in my perspective, seems to have shifted. What started out as a movement to advance women's rights has evolved over time with new challenges being brought to the forefront. Specifically, the prevalence of misandry, also known as hateful speech and prejudice that is directed towards men. Now, before we get into it, we first need to have an understanding of what feminism entails, how it's expanded, and what it's led to today. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn your post notifications on for more content. So, first things first, what is feminism? Feminism is a social, political, and cultural movement that advocates for the rights of women in various areas of society, such as politics, economics, education, and personal autonomy. And since its inception, feminism has evolved through 4 different waves, each with its own focus and goals. And I want to take a moment to kind of dissect each of them. So the first wave of feminism began in the late 19th to early 20th century. Its main focus was on legal issues, particularly women's right to vote, and activists sought to address property rights and access to education. Key achievements during this period included the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848 and the passage of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1920. Now, the Seneca Falls Convention basically produced the Declaration of Sentiments, which was a document that outlined the grievances and called for equal rights. So this included the right to vote, the right of married women to own their own property, have custody of their children, keep their own wages, and more. Now, I will say that while the passage of the 19th Amendment was a milestone that granted women the right to participate in the democratic process, it did not automatically ensure full voting rights for all women, particularly women of color. And it wasn't until the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965 that all women were granted this right. The second wave of feminism emerged between the 1960s to the 1980s. Second wave feminists advocated for reproductive rights, workplace equality, and an end to gender-based discrimination. This wave also included discussions about sexuality and the role of women in the family, advocating that women should not be confined to only being a housewife, that they were capable of also having a career and working in the workforce. This second wave achieved significant gains, including the introduction of the birth control pill. Roe v. Wade protected a woman's right to have an abortion, and their increased awareness of workplace discrimination. So just to give an example, the Equal Pay Act of 1963 was signed into law, and new legislation stated that women could no longer be paid less than men for doing the same work. The third wave of feminism emerged between the 1990s to early 2000s and was characterized by increased diversity with a focus on intersectionality. So intersectionality was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, I believe her last name was, and it basically stated that as individuals, we each have unique attributes and characteristics that make us who we are. Just to give an example, I am not just a woman. I am a heterosexual woman who has brown skin. I speak English, Spanish, and broken English, and these are just a few of my social identities. Social identities can be race, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, language, etc. And it's within these social identities that each of us have that shape our experiences with oppression and privilege. So third wave feminists basically sought to deconstruct these gender norms, challenge stereotypes, and contributed to greater inclusivity within the feminist movement by emphasizing the importance of recognizing and respecting diverse experiences and perspectives. And finally, the fourth wave of feminism, also known as modern-day feminism, is where we're currently at. From the 2000s to the present, this wave has been marked by social media for organizing and amplifying voices. Issues such as sexual harassment, body shaming, rape culture, online harassment, the Me Too movement, reproductive justice, and gender identity have been prominent in fourth wave discussions. Now, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, while major milestones have been accomplished within the feminist movement as a whole, new challenges have been brought to the forefront. Specifically, the rhetoric that is now being used within the modern day feminism. On social media and in society, there has been a prevalence of hateful speech and prejudice that is directed towards men. This is known as misandry, the opposite of misogyny, and it has resulted in extreme expressions of hostility towards men. Some common phrases that are being perpetuated include the saying, "Men, they're not it." "Men are incapable of understanding women's experiences." "Men are the abusers. They are the ones who are violent. They are inherently aggressive." I've heard people say, "We don't need men. They only cause problems. Men are the root of all societal problems," and more. Now, I do want to note that this does not represent the views of all feminists, right? However, it is something that I
Is there an epidemic of loneliness? I personally, this is like a really weird perspective to have. I think I'm a lot different than a lot of other people in the way that I kind of like being alone a lot of the time. So from my perspective, I think there's an epidemic of people feeling lonely and not feeling comfortable being by themselves. I don't think that's the only thing, and there's a lot more to it than that. But I do think that's a factor that people just don't really talk about a lot. Because there's a lot of people that back in the day used to work by themselves most days. Think about a farmer or something like that. Being lonely doesn't equal being alone. Yeah, but then that becomes very complex to talk about. Well, anyway, let's look at what they have to say.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. He held his phone close, eyes searching for privacy. The man scarcely noticed the subway riders around him, or the 90-year-old artist sketching his hunched frame from across the train. In the 7 decades since Alex Katz first drew the outlines of commuters on New York City's early morning trains, the chattering riders and newspapers had all but gone. In their places were people who rode alone, together.
That's really cool. I don't know why. I just think that's so fucking cool. That this same guy used to draw pictures of people looking at the newspaper, and it's now people looking at their phone.
Light in their eyes, reflecting the glow of their smartphone. That was a quote from the Dallas Morning News. This short imagery is something that we see and all understand, but never really think deeply about. Why does it seem like less people are talking to each other in public? Why do we collectively prefer the dim glow of a smartphone screen?
I think also another reason why people don't like talking in public is that the amount of people that get recorded in public without their consent has a chilling effect on people wanting to interact with each other. Because you never know if somebody's trying to talk to you for a YouTube video or something like that. Or if you say the wrong thing, you could get recorded and then put on the internet and people shit on you. I think there's a lot of people that are kind of a little bit on edge because of that. And I don't think that's the main reason. I just think that's a reason that exists. That's all.
Do you remember your childhood neighborhood?
Yeah.
Chances are, you probably felt like it was one big family. Everybody knew each other, celebrated together, and would offer help when needed. But in recent decades, this seems like it's no longer the case. People seem to keep to themselves more. And as a side effect, people are more lonely today than ever before.
I think that for my neighborhood, the reason why it was the case is because like everybody's kids were friends. So like I know my neighbors, sure, but like I'm not actively spending time with them. But like if I had kids and they had kids and the kids were hanging out, then I would know them way better.
The number of men without any close friends has increased 5 times since 1990, and 10 times for women, though the total percentage of men feeling lonely
I wonder why women it's a lot less.
Is higher. On top of this, 3/4 of Gen Z report feeling lonely. Why have we drifted from each other? What is going on here? The trend started before the pandemic and even before smartphones, so it has to be something structural within society. But what?
I still think that like there's a big component of this that people view, like they see media like movies, TV shows, Instagram, and Facebook of like all these people hanging out and having fun together, and like they feel like they need to be doing that. And so there's like a sense of like perceived loneliness and FOMO because you're missing out on these opportunities. Whereas like before, you didn't really see those things happening, or they were portrayed to you in a way that was more authentic. Like, you know, you saw this happen, but it was like very rare. Yeah, they don't see the reality exactly.
Working on this episode for many months.
Modern society is currently going through serious problems. That seems obvious to me to see with various economic, political, environmental, and other issues. These range from competition with China, massive inequality, supply chain problems, global warming, and you could list countless others. Young people today face hard lives. Things like this tend to be extremely complicated with many factors going into them, but there is one big driving variable that I think can be blamed enough to warrant a video being made about it, and is a significant portion of the decisions we've made wrong. That being the baby boomer generation. I think the boomers in many ways are unparalleled across history for the raw amount of social damage they have caused in their several decade rule. This might sound suspicious or overstated, but this video will try to make the argument that the baby boomers have set up later generations to have a shit show that's incredibly difficult to solve. Here, I'm going to go through the various vectors through which the baby boomers have hurt society. Let's get started. So much of what the boomers think of the world is defined by their understanding of World War II, which was really important for their childhoods. World War II still fascinates many as the start of the current era of history we're living in. With many of its colorful characters, it's an excellent topic to look into, and there's nowhere better to start than Magellan TV. I recently watched a series, The Day When, about decisions taken by some of the greatest leaders in World War II. It's a great insight into what they were dealing with and the pressures of their time. Magellan TV is a documentary streaming service made by filmmakers with the best selection of movies and historical documentaries out there. They have content covering everything from geology to astronomy, and from true crime to ancient history. If you like World War II, the Roman Empire, science, religion, or anything else, Magellan TV is great for you, and it's compatible just about any device and is 4K HD with no additional cost. It's a wonderful platform for an affordable price. On top of this, What If Altus viewers can get a 1-month free trial using the link in the video description. Magellan TV is a platform for you, so check out Magellan TV today and start learning about whatever interests you. For those that don't know, and I know generational terms vary a tremendous amount on a nation-by-nation basis, baby boomers are born between the end of World War II and 1964. This generation's absolutely massive, the largest in history up to its point. And this analysis will heavily target the Western world, especially the United States, but I'll make periodic glances elsewhere, and I'm sure a very significant amount of the things that happen in America apply elsewhere in the rest of the world. Before I start, I'd like to say I'm not blaming baby boomers as individuals. I think most groups of people tend to be, for the most part, good, honorable people. If they weren't, society would fall apart. And there are countless baby boomers who are the most wonderful people in the world, whether morally or through their amazing achievements. If you are a baby boomer watching this video, I don't want to attack you as an individual since I know nothing about your life. However, I will make the argument that the baby boomers as a group cause massive damage to the broader society that simply cannot be ignored or discounted. In other words, your parents may be the most wonderful people in the world. I'm not attacking them. I'm attacking their broader demographic. In this video, I'm going to go through the history of how the boomers influenced the world over the course of their lives, going through the record of their effects upon every element in the broader society. This is in many ways a history of the baby boomers, and like everything else, it's complicated, and the boomers have done many good things to the world, which we will also talk about. It's hard to not be in awe of how many boomers there were. In 1961, half of America's population was under the age of 25. This was since most countries in the Western world had negative, unsustainable birth rates for several decades before World War II due to the Depression and the war. And for many, especially in Europe, the 20s weren't especially great either. When World War II and the post-war prosperity came, it resulted in people having children like crazy. This raw size has meant, in effect, that for the whole post-war era, until the present, the boomers were the dominant demographic. And this manifested incredibly early by trying to sell to the young adolescent boomer generation. TV shows, toys, and the like were geared towards baby boomers. If you ignore the greatest mass murderers of all time like Mao and Stalin, the boomers grew up in what could possibly be considered the best era in history. There were so many things that had gone right, it's kinda shocking. The Industrial Revolution had created mass advances in productivity, wages had been kept artificially down for various complicated economic and political reasons in the pre-World War II world, but after the war, the standard of living grew at the fastest level ever in human history. Basically, every standard of living statistic between diet, physical health, the strength of social communities and networks, low political stress, and the like were the best levels in history. This really was a golden age to be a normal human being. On top of this, you have seen
The beauty and personal care industry for men and women is a multi-billion-dollar business. While some of that is spent for reasons of self-satisfaction, a large amount is spent to attract, well, a mate. There's just one problem. Unless you date the same sex, sometimes what you think is attractive about yourself isn't what the opposite sex is attracted to. Here's the most awkward Jubilee video to demonstrate that point. They brought in a group of women, all strangers, to rank themselves from least attractive to most attractive. Then they brought in a group of men to rank the women as well. Probably should have renamed this video Strangers Get Self-Esteem Destroyed. After that, the men ranked themselves and were in turn ranked by the women. To no one's surprise, there was quite a difference in what men and women see as attractive in themselves and about the other sex. A similar conversation has been happening on TikTok, where individuals discuss the male versus female gaze.
So both men behind me are both me, and when I put a poll, which look do you like better, women unanimously chose the look on the left, while men mostly chose the look on the right. But I feel like men chose the look on the right because they feel like that's what women would want.
I know this is gonna sound wrong, and I promise I don't have it like that, but how come I get more matches now that I look like this than I ever did looking like this?
What if I told you there are theories that these differences come from a long line of human evolution that still affects us today? Even with all our modern luxuries and social progress, we're still affected by these animal instincts which manifest in our current media every day.
Welcome to Internet Impact. I'm Donna. Consider this a part 2 to the video called The Advantage of Being Attractive, Alex from Target. Now that one was focused on general attractiveness. Today we're going to get to male and female specific. As usual for videos like this, keep in mind that we're going to be discussing generalities. So of course there will be individuals who are exceptions. All studies mentioned will be down in the description below. Okay, so as I said, I noticed this discussion on TikTok and I'm hearing people use the term male versus female gaze. Male gaze refers to things that appeal to the male gaze and vice versa for female, obviously. Everyone has given examples of celebrities and characters for females versus males, but no one has really given an explanation for this stark difference. I guess you can't really do deep dives on TikTok because of the time limit, so today we're going to do just that and investigate what may cause this difference. What do males find attractive in females? What do females find attractive in males? And most importantly, why is what we find attractive about ourselves sometimes different from what the opposite sex finds attractive? We may just find the answer in evolutionary psychology and sexual selection.
We're going to begin by going over what is meant by male versus female gaze. In many forms of media, content is sometimes designed to cater to a specific sex. This obviously doesn't mean men or women can't enjoy content that isn't designed for them. It means the elements in this piece of media happen to typically attract one sex. Media that caters to a specific sex can often portray men and women very differently.
Bond. James Bond.
The characters in media designed for men are said to appeal to the male gaze, while characters in media designed for women are said to appeal to the female gaze. Both portrayals aren't exactly accurate representations of each sex, but they're deliberately designed that way for the purpose of attracting either a male or female audience. The theory is that the male versus female gaze in media stems from innate biological differences from years and years of human evolution. You know that stereotype or perhaps truth portrayed in media where men seem to be more promiscuous than women?
You would have sex with me.
Are you being serious? Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Totally down.
No, that's not like a question. Like, would you? Like, no, literally, will you? Like, right now.
Yes.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay, my house is like right up there. You wanna go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Women, on the other hand, seem to be more picky and coy.
Would any of you be interested in having sex with me? No? Can I have this ukulele?
No.
If you've watched any nature documentary, you've probably noticed this dynamic as well. Several males in pursuit of a female, a male flaunting its physical attributes to impress his desired mate, or several males battling it out to win a female. With a few
This is going to be brilliant because this is a woman's only shot to get you. And you know what? They can shoot that ball, boy. Let's give women a round of applause just for a second to give them credit because they're damn good at what they do. But you can only be so good. Once you see the amount of things that you can see, in these situations with these females, bro. The game gets exposed. Younger guys that lack experience have it the worst. The worst. And guess what? There's men who get older and lack the experience. That's not good either. This is a woman's game in 2024, and this is her only shot to fool you, to have power over you in 2024 and going forward. And this has been going on for numerous years, but 2024 and going forward, this is what it is. It's a power trip. Her only shot to have power over you as a man is to manipulate you, is to fool your mind, is to make you believe false things. Women set traps. They can, here's one trap. They can simply play hard to get to appear more high value than they actually are. But do you know what they're doing when they're playing hard to get? Do you know what they're doing? When all of a sudden they're texting you so fluently, so calmly, so wonderfully, do you know what they're doing when all of a sudden they pull back and they veer off for a week or 2 weeks or something like this and then hit you back up? Do you know what they're doing? Talking to other people. They're leaving you on the hook to see what you're going to do. That is what they're doing. They want to decrease your value as a man and artificially inflate their own value. You could be far better than her. Some of them will still do this. So women's only power over you is to fool your mind, is to trick your mind. And if you get tricked, she's going to have the power. You can't be tricked. You can't be fooled. You can't care. You guys have always heard this saying before, right? Like, you can't care about a woman. You, like, whatever they do, you simply cannot care. Like, you can't live your life depending on talking to this girl and, oh my God, things are going so well, and you're
have you go. I would like to hear a little bit more from Farah if you'd like to weigh in.
I was just going to ask, maybe I missed it. So what do you think the ideal form of marriage is? Like the woman goes to college and then she meets a guy in college and then she taps out of her career?
I don't know that going to college is really great for anybody these days. I'm pro-education, obviously. I mean, and I'm not even one of these conservatives who says, you should all just study engineering or whatever. I think that's bunk. I think you should read old books and acculturate yourself. But I don't think most colleges accomplish this these days, including the really fancy colleges, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I don't know that maybe you can get an education there. I'm not totally convinced you can. And so, I get women should be educated. But, frankly, these days, you send your kids to a homeschool co-op, they'll start learning Latin in the 3rd grade. You send your kids on the track to go to Yale or Harvard, and they're probably not going to know anything by the time they graduate. I would love my wife to be educated. My wife is extremely educated, and I would love my wife to be a wife and a mother. And I guess the image that I think of for marriage is not as, the modern way of talking about it, where you say, this is my partner. It sounds like a gay accounting firm, This is my total indistinguishable partner. No, I want a wife, man, and I want a mother for my children. I want to be a father, and that involves different roles, and that involves complementarity.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So are you saying that like maybe they'll get educated outside of college, reading books or whatever, and then after that they should focus like at age 23, 24, getting married, and then not pursuing a career and focus on family life? Yeah,
I'm not going to prescribe exactly at what age people ought to get married. They certainly ought to get married younger. I wish I'd gotten married younger. I don't.
But you would prescribe that they focus on a career with precedence.
Generally speaking, I think women will be less happy if they are going to the widget factory to work for Mr. McGillicuddy, so that they can make money that I will then receive from my wife to pay some other woman to raise our children. Mm-hmm. I think that's an extremely inefficient and disordered way to have a marriage, and I don't think it makes anybody particularly happy.
I guess it confuses me coming from a TradCon, because you guys believe in the design of a lot of things. You believe in like the design of sex and what's like the most optimal use of sex. Why did God give us sex? Yes, and you would say like the end of sex would be to pair bond and reproduce. So if women were not meant to pursue careers, why would God, according to your Christian purview, you're Christian, right?
Yeah.
Like equip us with so many rational faculties. Like why are women so good at like aerospace engineering, nanotech, pediatrics,
I don't know if I'd say they're so good at aerospace engineering.
Why are women
scoring higher than you guys in every subject?
Why is
yeah, they're not totally represented in these fields.
My question is, if TradCons use God as like their purview for, you know what I mean, use our faculties as the metric
you
for
don't
what
even
we
have
should
to
be
be religious
pursuing,
about this.
why is it that women are now outgraduating men like basically 2 to 1, but then you guys are
the
prescribing...
colleges are total nonsense now, and they have a bunch of fake majors, and it's a scam.
Is law a fake major? Because this is now we have more female first-year associates.
Right, and law school is largely a scam, too, and you've got a glut of lawyers.
Well, my question is, why would God equip us with these things, these faculties, if God did not want us as women to pursue these faculties and instead abandon it at first step for marriage and kids?
The premise of your question is that raising children and running a family in the domestic economy is not a rational activity.
It's not that it's a rational activity, but why equip us to be so good at STEM and college and all these pursuits?
What could be more important than raising a family?
I'm saying why give women the ability to both have a child and still be able to read like intellectual texts or
to educate the
to
child.
Look at aerospace engineering. Well, that's the thing. You can
to raise your kid to be an aerospace engineer. I guess,
but
if
you
you're really
can't be an
interested in
aerospace
that.
engineer yourself.
Women can if they like. They generally don't do that.
No, I'm asking. So is that your position, that God equipped women to be as good at STEM, to outgraduate men, all to just pursue homeschooling
if
for
you
their
look
children?
at like Fields Medal recipients, Larry Summers got fired from Harvard for pointing this out, but this is the top prize in mathematics. Until about 10 years ago, no woman had ever won the prize, and now I think one woman has won it. And I'm not knocking, there are plenty of women who are much more intelligent than me. The reason Larry Summers, who's as far as social scientists goes,
Pokimane blames Manosphere red pill bullshit for ditching Twitch. What's this?
I'm gonna say something that might get me in some trouble, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I just don't see the Twitch scene developing in the direction that I would like for it to. And especially with the rise of so much Manosphere red pill bullshit, I feel like that stuff has flourished within the male-dominated live streaming sphere of things. To see it be normalized, the kind of bigotry and shit spewing.
Like, how are you gonna say this shit and then go to YouTube? Like, are you kidding me? You're gonna go and say this about Twitch and then go to YouTube? It's like there's like some YouTube short and like it fucking, there's like some guy that says like women shouldn't be able to drive. And then there's like a clip of a woman crashing into a tree. And then it's like a sequence of like Thomas Shelby walking away from like an exploding car with like electronic music playing in the background. And then like every comment is like, yeah, my mom's a fucking bitch too. She doesn't know how to drive either. Like, that's it. So how the fuck do you go from Twitch to YouTube and blame Twitch for having red pill stuff whenever the red pill stuff is primarily on YouTube? I don't know.
Why do you think there is such a crisis of masculinity in the first place, and why are there so many people out there who are angry at you for even talking to men?
They want to keep us down.
I think you could think about it as a consequence, in some sense, of the lack of a concept of original sin, oddly enough. I mean, people bear an existential burden, you know. It's an intrinsic part of life to, I suppose, to feel guilty in relationship to nature, and to feel guilty in relationship to culture. No, it's difficult for us to live in harmony with the natural world, and for the natural world to live in harmony with us, by the way. And none of us are all we could be on the social front. And one of the consequences, and so we have that sense intrinsically, you know, that there's a lack in us that needs to be redressed. And unfortunately, that can be weaponized, and has been. And what I see happening to young men in particular, boys as well, not just young men, and maybe even, you know, maybe starting at the age of toddlers, is that we have this sense in the world that human beings live in antagonism to nature and that we're actually a malevolent force. And that our social structures, which are clearly capable of the commission of atrocity, are fundamentally oppressive, patriarchal in their nature. And so then if you're a male in a society with that ethos, you're the
enemy.
motive force that drives you into the world to live is associated with rapaciousness and despoliation on the natural front, and then oppression and atrocity on the social front. It's like, well then, if you're the least bit conscientious, because this sort of accusation hurts conscientious young men the most, then the best you can do is, well, let's say castrate yourself. How would that be? And that would be real comical, except that it's also happening.
Facts.
So I guess
Facts, bruh. The initial effect of him saying that was meant to be comical, but at the same time, he's fucking dead ass serious when he means that. Psychological, cultural castration, where men are afraid to be men right now because society views men as the fucking enemy, because we live in that goddamn patriarchy, and the whole fucking world has been all feminized, and you know what I mean, anything masculine, anything conscientious masculine, anything associated to a man being self-aware that he is a man and needs to be walking around this motherfucking world as a man, it looked at as a goddamn enemy by society, and especially this new age, progressive ass, liberal ass, demonic world we living in, bro, where they trying to kill motherfuckers like us, right? And that's what the fuck he talking about. But no. And then men who allow themselves to be castrated, right? Ain't no real man gonna allow that, regardless of what the fuck he has to go against. You know what I mean? But it's not even on the man. It's just it's on the villages that are, you know, making these men. You know what I mean? Because they're being influenced by schools, social media, mainly social media, right? Where
Hey, Ange.
Hey, Ari. Hi, guys. You think we'd get better at this by now?
You think we'd be better at this, yeah. I'm Ari.
I'm Angela. And this is Girls Gone Bible. We are a faith-based podcast. We talk all things Jesus, anything to do with life, mental health, spirituality, spiritual warfare, whether you're Christian or not, whether you're religious or not. I believe that you can get something out of this. You can learn something. If nothing else, I promise we can entertain you for 2 hours.
Oh, that we can promise you. And we promise you can feel safe with us.
Absolutely, you can. What's up, R?
Hey.
Is anything new in our lives?
Well, I don't, is anything new in our...
Okay, so we did Renewal of the Mind last week, and what has happened since? Oh, I've come to a huge revelation in my life.
What?
You know, remember how sacrifice was my word?
Is it gone?
No, I've sacrificed more.
Okay, tell me.
So, and I'm telling this to GGB gang because we're going to be very vulnerable today on the podcast. So I thought I'd start it off with telling you guys a very vulnerable thing that's going on in my life. I have to be single.
Hi, I'm Lena the Plug. I am an adult creator.
My name is Adam22, and I co-own Plug Talk with my lovely wife. We interview a different girl every
What's wrong with being a nice guy?
What's wrong with being a nice guy? That's a good question. You know, when I put out a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy, I'm sure a lot of people picked it up and said, wait a minute, there's already enough not nice guys out there. Why somebody write a book teaching men how to be not nice? The problem with being a nice guy, just a quick elevator pitch, is that a nice guy is a guy who inaccurately internalized a belief system at a very young age. I'm not okay, just as I am. So he's trying to do two things, very unconsciously usually. One is become what he thinks everybody else wants him to be, so he'll be liked and loved and get his needs met and get laid, hopefully, regularly, and hide anything about himself that might get a negative reaction from people. Hiding his needs, his wants, his sexuality. So while he's trying to get laid, he's hiding his sexuality. So a core problem with nice guy syndrome is nice guys tend to be unauthentic. There's not a real them there. They're trying to become something, hide something, and that tends to make them fairly dishonest, untrustworthy, frustrated, resentful, passive aggressive, a whole list of traits that can go along. And mainly it prevents, and I'm a recovering nice guy, so I'm not speaking down to anybody. You know, it keeps us from just being ourselves, living up to our full potential, having what we want in life, having a good time. And so just a lot of baggage comes along with it.
What are the component parts of being a nice guy? What are the traits that they embody or project?
What you'll recognize most often, and what listeners may recognize in themselves, core tendencies often people-pleasing, seeking external validation, and for men, usually that's seeking validation from women. Even gay guys, I find, tend to do it, even if they don't plan on having sex with the women. We can talk more about this, but we're